Hi, Dafydd. Just wanted to just ask you a few questions in regards to your business and, your sustainable practices and your innovation. So just want to start off with, can you just tell us a bit about the company and the background of it and, what you've done to innovate?
Yeah, of course. So first of all, thanks for speaking to me. The beekeeping all started when I was 11 years old back in 2014. It was essentially a back garden hobby that my grandfather had. He's had since 1969. And following his passing in 2017, I took on the 30 hives that he had spread out across 3 sites in Bridgend. And that then just grew really, really quick then. So in 2020, when we moved away from selling door to door because of COVID and the increase in COVID, where it was sold door to door from my grandmother's house, we moved into e-commerce. So I built an online store using my knowledge of IT. And from then on, really, the business just took off using things like search engine optimization. We managed to bump the page up to first on Google. And that really then allowed the business to just thrive altogether. So that's where the Welsh Honey Company was built. So going around to different markets, farmers markets, and different food festivals, then really built the brand, and people started learning about it. But the main thing really was it was all centered around e-commerce. So the online shop thrived, and then with that we supply around 100 independent retailers and farm shops across the UK, really. So, and with that, sustainability is massive in absolutely everything we do. The main thing is that we have a massive passion for bees, nature, and sustainable food production, as well as ethical beekeeping practices. It's the heart of what we do. If we didn't have the bees, we wouldn't get the byproduct, which is the raw Welsh honey, the beeswax, the candles that we make through the beeswax. And then as a byproduct, then we make things such as lip balm. So nothing goes to waste. So sustainability is massive in my business. And I think that even though we're a micro business, we can make a huge amount of impact because everything that we do within the company is ethical and sustainable. So that's how the Welsh Honey Company was built, and that's kind of the aim that we have. Is every little thing that we do within the company is sustainable.
Fantastic. Yeah, it's good to hear. So just a follow-up question with that. So what inspired the core innovation in regards to your business and and everything there?
Yeah, so I'd say the main thing is that it's inspired by the respect for nature and the need to protect overall pollinators. They're crucial to everything we do. They're a massive part of biodiversity. If we didn't have bees, it's said to be an Einstein quote. It hasn't been fact checked, but within 4 years we'll be dead if bees died, because they play such a vital role in our ecosystem that without them we wouldn't survive. And along with that, even though bees are really important and everything I do is centered around the bees, my aim is to produce high quality natural honey. Unfortunately, we've seen a massive push in adulterated honeys that come from countries such as China and are pushed into UK supermarkets for a super cheap price. Unfortunately, it's not always honey, and we found a massive increase over the last 10 years where the price of honey is being pushed up, and then these supermarket honeys with a mix of EU and non-EU honey, which are majority from China, has been pushed into the market. So my aim really is to remarket the way that people look at honey, and rather than going for £1 bottle, plastic bottles on the shelf, they'll go for a more ethically produced, sustainable company like myself, which even though you pay a higher price, you're getting quality for your money. And with that, I'd say that a massive part of innovation for us is doing things like using glass bottles and eco-friendly packaging. Like I touched on before, a lot of what we do is online. So using things like packing chips that are compostable, using things like bubble wrap, which is recyclable, and using just cardboard packaging for the boxes across both when sending to our retail clients as well as to door to door. I think it's massive that we send everything that can be recycled. So everything in that box, when you're done with it, straight into recycling, reduce, reuse, recycle. That's our main push there.
Yeah.
And again, chemical-free beekeeping as well. When we're keeping the bees, we try our best to not use any chemicals whatsoever. Unfortunately, there are times where chemicals has to be used to prevent disease,
Yeah.
and especially a virus which is going around called chronic bee paralysis virus, which is called by the varroa mite. We have recently been having to use a acid which essentially is put on the bees when there's no honey on the hive. But it's completely sustainable. It's actually found in things like lettuce, for example. So it's a naturally produced acid, which is absolutely fine for the bees. But with that, we're working towards phasing that out and ensuring that the bees build up a bit of immunity to this varroa mite. And recently, with the tests that I've done alongside a local beekeepers association, we've found really positive results, and we're starting to phase out using chemicals like that. So I'm happy to say within the last 5 years, we haven't used any of these acid treatments. So, you know, it's a foot in the right direction, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, essentially, as well, is local honey is really important, and putting it basically into a circular, local and ethical business model where we're providing honey to the community. So there's less air miles as well. You know, honey is not coming all the way from China. It's literally a couple of miles from around the corner. So, you know, that's really important. And it was something that was popular maybe 40, 50 years ago, or in 1969 when my grandfather was beekeeping. But unfortunately, beekeeping and honey production has been commercialized, and we started to see that phased out. So now we're having to re-innovate and using things like our online store. We've seen that more local people are able to get honey because it's a new way of living, isn't it? You know, nobody goes into a shop anymore. So making it easily available online is massive, and now we're finding that a lot of our customers are local, so you know, it's massive for the environment.
Yeah, fantastic. That's perfect. So just, you know, expanding on that, you know, what sort of personal convictions, you mentioned about your family and everything there, but what personal convictions have guided you when facing challenges in your business?
Yeah, well, I'd say personally, I think sustainability isn't an option. You know, it's essential. We're finding that more and more packaging is in plastic, it's single use, it goes straight in the bin. And it pains me to see that even when I go shopping, admittedly, I buy stuff, I use something, and then it's not recyclable. You know, for example, it's a black plastic. Well, that could be easily avoidable. Black plastic can't be recycled, so that can be easily avoided by making it seafood, for example, where we can process that and reuse it. But yeah, essentially as well, when, you know, we're facing a huge epidemic here of climate change. So anything that we can do in order to make impact, I think, is really important. And like I said, we don't even fall into the small or medium-sized enterprise area business. We're a micro business, but what I believe is that it shouldn't matter the size of the business. I think that even if you are a micro business, and especially business like ours, you can adopt something that will make a huge impact. And even though you may not be industry leaders on a global term, we are industry leaders here in Wales, and I think that us leading this into the right direction and be sustainable using glass jars and recyclable lids is really important. So I'd say that really what's guided me is I've seen the way we're operating globally and the way that we're kind of disregarding the climate emergency that we're in, and basically doing the opposite and providing a positive impact for the environment and also nature, because I believe if we look after nature, then nature will look after us at the end of the day.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you there. Now, just expanding off that, so what's the short-term and, you know, the long-term effects of innovation and on the business model? Like, obviously, before this interview, I sent you over the UN Sustainable Development Goals. just wondering if you could link it into there and, just see where you align sort of thing. But yeah, just the short-term and long-term goals.
Yeah, exactly. But I think it creates resilience and aligns just right with the UN Sustainability Development Goals. We're on track to meet those goals as well. And doing little steps, like for example, we're now using complete renewable energy at our bottling facility, which is a new facility where we're using state-of-the-art, low energy equipment and machinery, which are more efficient not only for the business but also beneficial to the planet as well. This is a massive step for us, and I think the renewable energy can be used across many other businesses, and I think that us doing this now will allow other micro businesses to adopt the same kind of thing, because actually it isn't as big of a cost as what most people would think. So my plan really is to educate other small businesses that actually you can take that stride and become more sustainable and go in line with the development goals of the UN, and use renewable energy, just those little steps like that. But I think also innovation is massive. It builds brand loyalty. It's essential, really. If people can see that you're building a positive, you're positively impacting the community and building a good reputation, brand trust will easily come along with that. People like to see you doing good things.
And you'll have a sort of comprehensive view of it as well, when you it's not a sort of up in the air thing. Perfect. So just following up from that, just going into a bit more detail in regards to the actual process, can you just explain a little bit about the process and how the honey is produced from the hive to the jar?
Yeah, of course. So I'm really transparent in the way that we extract our honey, that kind of farm to fork method, really. I think that it's important that people see how their food's produced. So essentially, to put it short, there's a lot that goes into it. But per hive, you have a brew box, which is where the queen lays. Above that, you have a super, which is where the bees store their honey, and with that, they'll naturally move up. And in those boxes, just to set the scene, if you've never seen a beehive before, but essentially each frame will have there'll be usually about 10 frames per super, which is where the honey is stored, and the bees will collect nectar from Welsh wildflowers in Bridgend. We have a range of wildflowers, but we rely heavily on something called Himalayan water balsam, which is actually an invasive species flower. We often bash it here in Bridgend County to get rid of it because it's invasive, but it's actually really good for the bees. So they gather nectar from flowers such as water balsam, and then they'll be put into the frame, and they'll then turn that into honey. So they'll turn it into honey. It's a long process where essentially they take the nectar and they put it back out, and using their glands they create honey. And then they cap it over with a bit of wax, which seals it to get any. It ensures that there's no debris in there as well, but also protects it from things like moisture. So that's capped over with wax. Towards the end of the year, we ensure that the bees have enough honey to get through winter. I mean, that's the main priority, really. If there isn't enough honey on the hive for them to get through to winter, then it's a no-go. You don't take any honey off them. That's our main thing, is the overall health for the bees. But if there is any excess honey, because the bees do produce a lot of excess honey, especially honeybees, which is why we get honey from honeybees, because other bees do produce honey, but not enough for us to harvest. So with honeybees, then so we take honey off the hive. Then that's put into a centrifuge, essentially. So it spins it around and takes all the honey out. And then all we do is lightly strain the honey so that it takes out any pieces of maybe wood from the hive, or any pieces of wax, for example. So the honey isn't damaged in any way. It's literally just taking out any foreign objects, for example. And all we do then is put it straight into jars. So using some of the new machinery that I spoke about before, we put the honey straight into jars with nothing added, nothing taken away. So it's completely raw, natural honey. So that preserves all the enzymes and the nutrients of the honey as well. And with that, I think it's important that you can trace every jar of honey back to the hives. So every jar, we then, using our records, trace each bucket that we put it into back to the exact apiary. So we know it's traceable, sustainable. And the main thing as well is that it's proudly Welsh. It's produced by us, and it's high quality as well. It hasn't come from a factory in China. So that's the main thing, really. So that's essentially how honey's produced hives to jar, but just very simplified.
So it's not factory farming. It's more sort of, it's more sort of like taking the excess and everything there. So it's not
exactly
sort of killing a hive in order to make a profit.
Exactly. If we have the opportunity to have any excess honey, we'll take that, and it's actually beneficial for the bees because they're then not having as much room to heat in the winter, which would cause them to die out if they had 5 boxes, for example. Full of honey, which are then harder to heat because they need to keep the hive at around 35 degrees. So, so any excess, that's what we take. And just to add to it, to tie in with sustainability, all of our frames are wooden, our hives are wooden. The hive stands that we use are currently galvanized steel, and the reason for that is that they don't rust, and you can keep it for years and years and years. So a lot of the hive stands that I've had for maybe the past 20 years. Some of them older from when my granddad had as well. So a mixture of wooden and galvanized steel stands we use as well. And in terms of the wax, you have a starter layer of wax that's using recycled beeswax as well. So everything's reused, everything you can recycle, and the main thing is all sustainable in line with the UN's goals again.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, you've kind of answered my next question with just sort of how do you make sure your beekeeping practices are sustainable there. Is there anything else that you make that you haven't mentioned there that you ensure that ensure that your practices are sustainable?
Yeah, I mean, of course, yeah. Like I said before, we have a lot of wildflowers near us. We're very fortunate to have a lot of open commons in our area and a lot of farmland as well. So working along with farmers to get arable crops that are beneficial to bees, like Phacelia, for example, is really important. And I've been educating a lot of the farmers that we got hives on to plant these things because it's not just beneficial to bees, it's beneficial to all pollinators, and they're all essential to our ecosystem. But we also live in an area where it's very built up, and we're finding that there's an increase in housing, which is taking up a lot of the farmland. And as you can imagine, that is having a knock-on effect
of course,
on our honey crop and on the bees as well. It's unfair that they're having less and less forage. So what we've been doing, working along with the Welsh government as well, is we went through a stage of giving away seed bombs, wildflower seed bombs, with each of our orders free of charge. That then allows people who may have smaller gardens or live in suburban areas to plant wildflower seeds, which again are beneficial to bees and other pollinators. So that's something that I'm really proud of. And even now we sell wildflower seed bombs on our website for a low price, but we don't make a huge profit on it, just because it's great and it allows us to have more pollinator friendly habitats. And even with that, collaborating with local farmers to reduce pesticides as well is massive. Like I spoke before, a lot of the farmers need to replant every couple of years in order to maintain high quality soil, a different crop, for example. So if you use oilseed rape for 2 years, you need to rotate that then to ensure that the soil isn't damaged. So planting things like Phacelia, which will attract pollinators, is important because it won't only just benefit the soil, it'll benefit the bees as well. And in terms of beekeeping practices, again, reuse, recycle, and minimizing any waste by using sustainable packaging is really important. And supporting any kind of biodiversity and ethical beekeeping practices, again, is really important. Doing things like not clipping the bees' wings, so that the queen's wings, so that they can still swarm, is really important to me, because it's completely natural for bees to swarm.
Of course, yeah.
So stopping them from doing that is, in my opinion, unethical. So that's why we don't do that, and we allow them to naturally swarm when they need to, really. So
Yes, yeah, of course, yeah. And you mentioned, you use glass jars and everything there. So I believe you mentioned to me in a previous conversation to this interview that you reuse jars when you can.
yeah,
And
exactly.
some
So
customers,
again, we got a scheme where if customers of a regular buyers from us, where a lot of our customers are repeat customers,
you have a
they're
subscription service, don't you?
exactly, yeah, we have a subscription service, and a lot of our customers are very, very involved in our sustainability plans. And with that, then, when we deliver the new monthly subscription to Honey, they're able to give us back the old jars. And with that, then we put it through our commercial grade dishwasher to get it back to the standard it was when it came through the factory, if not cleaner, ready for reuse. So again, environment is at the heart of every decision we do. So that's why I believe sustainability is so big. So yeah.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, perfect. So so how would you describe your, the company's mission and your core values?
Yeah, so I'd say that the main thing really is, as a company, is to produce authentic, high quality Welsh honey. But along with that, what comes first is protecting pollinators and promoting sustainability. Like I said, my involvement with Bridgend County Borough Council is massive. And using my experience from working in agriculture, as well as running a business that relies so heavily on a pollinator, is that we really need to promote sustainability a lot more. And I think working with someone like Bridgend County Borough Council, who are involved in the planning committees, for example, educating them as well is massive, because now they may think, oh, actually, we need to think about the bees, the wasps, the things that are actually pollinating what's around us and allowing us to have local fresh produce put on our plate every day. You need a farmer 3 times a day. You may need a lawyer once in your life. That's the way I look at it. It's the same kind of thing with a beekeeper. You don't think about it when you're eating your Sunday dinner, but without the bees and the other pollinators, then you wouldn't have that produce. And also, I believe that like we've done things where we could help out farmers by taking our bees to different sites, such as the oilseed rape, in order to produce to help their crops grow. So it's really important to me. But I'd say our core values as a company is sustainability. Again, at the heart of every decision we make. That's the first thing we look at when we make a decision at the Welsh Honey Company, rather than profit. If it isn't sustainable, we won't do it. We rule it out. And sometimes, as somebody who's speaking from the leadership side of the business, sometimes it does take a hit on profit. We could make a lot more money if we didn't consider sustainability, but it's number one on our list, so we don't do anything without ensuring that it is sustainable. But along with that, again, authenticity, 100% Welsh, 100% local, and completely traceable back to the beehives that it come from is really important to me. And we're working now with a area of the Welsh government where we're now going to be looking at getting PGI accreditation. So basically ensuring that everything can be traced exactly back to the hive and to the apiary. Like I said, but again, community, supporting local farmers, schools, markets, wherever we can, we'll help out, educating people about bees and how important it is, and also, as well as eating locally produced produce is really important. And
and it cuts down on sort of air miles and pollution transport and everything there.
Along with that as well, I think integrity is really important. Like I said, I'm very transparent in everything I do. Using the use of social media, it's been really beneficial that I can show people what goes into producing a jar of honey. And it's a lot of work, but at the same time, we don't add anything to the honey. We don't take anything away from it. At the end of the day, the bees do the hard work. and producing the honey ethically and keeping the bees in an ethical manner is part of my ethos. Is really important to me. So, it's techniques that my grandfather taught me years and years ago as a hobby beekeeper. And now that I moved into the commercial side of things, I haven't changed my beekeeping practices. I think it's still really important to be slow and to take, the bees into account. They're essential. So.
And do you feel like as your business grows, you have to keep that sort of sustainable mindset in regards to that, regardless of the profit that could be made, or
100%. Yeah, when you look at other countries, for example, America, where they've got a big commercial beekeeping scene, and especially Australia and New Zealand now with the rise of Manuka, you'll see a lot of unethical beekeeping practices because obviously they're trying to squeeze the honey or squeeze the hive for any profit they can.
Yeah.
That's not in my best interest. For me, I'm a beekeeper, and it's important that I keep my bees healthy. Along with that, you've got to practice sustainable beekeeping practices, and education as well. I think is really important. Not only for we often try go to schools to talk to young children about the awareness of bees and sustainable food wherever we can. But not only that, I have a big involvement in Bridgend District Beekeepers Association, where I'm a trustee. And with that, we do a beekeeping course every year, which sells out, I'm proud to say, every April. And along with that, our aim is to teach people sustainable beekeeping practices. So they're not learning from people on YouTube who aren't practicing beekeeping sustainably and ethically. So I know that when I'm training people and when other members of the association are training people, we've got a fantastic team that train people in both a practical and theory setting. I know that what they're getting taught is sustainable and ethical, and hopefully they will pass on the same kind of knowledge that we pass on to them. So it's again inspiring awareness of the sustainable food, but also sustainable beekeeping practice that then they could pass on, generations down the line.
Such as grandfather.
Exactly the same kind of thing. That's the aim of it really, and that's the main company's missions and core values.
Fantastic. So in what ways does your business support local communities and biodiversity? I know you've touched on that quite a lot. I just want to sort of, is there anything sort of specific? You mentioned this project as well. Just
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So the Sustainable Food Project is massive at the council, and I really think we're early days of getting involved, but already the council have made a massive impact, and I think there's something that other councils will then see that it's making a positive impact and also do the same things. It's not uncommon for not only me, but other trustees of Bridgend District Beekeepers Association, which is a charity registered here in Bridgend as well. It's the whole aim of it is to give back to beekeeping and educate people, and not only beekeepers, but members of the public here in Bridgend. So, and then sustainability groups as well. It's really important. Offering any workshops where we can talk about bees, pollination, and local food systems, I think is really important. And again, like I said, speaking to children that are, in the early stages of learning, maybe year 3, year 4, where they're fascinated about things and also they absorb information like sponges. I think it's really important to drill into them that bees are essential and all pollinators are essential. So, wherever I get the opportunity, I will speak in a school. But also, wherever we can, we'll talk about Welsh beekeeping. In other countries, there's a kind of like Slovakia, for example. I was fortunate enough to represent Wales in the International Meeting of Young Beekeepers in 2019. And what we learned is in a lot of European countries, one but every neighbour is a beekeeper. Well, here in Wales, that isn't a thing, unfortunately. So in the next kind of 5-10 years, that's something I really want to push. I want to get more people into beekeeping. And I don't want
as a hobby sort of thing.
Exactly. Like beekeeping in other countries isn't a niche. Whereas here in Bridgend or Wales or in the UK as a whole, really, if you tell someone you're a beekeeper, they're instantly interested because the odds are they've never met another beekeeper, which is completely fair enough.
Yeah,
but we
I
need
can
to
imagine.
But we need to turn that around now and get more people into beekeeping, which, will have a knock-on effect with, it'll have a knock-on effect then with our ecosystem.
Yeah.
You know, and training new beekeepers is, you know, a massive part of what we do at Bridgend District Beekeepers Association. And, you know, where we can go to country shows or county shows, we will, to try entice people into becoming beekeepers and join the course. And if they can't join the course, they can join as a member of our charity, and we'll provide them any information and support or mentorship that they need then. Because, you know, the more beekeepers, then you create and maintain pollinator habitats and boost diversity as a whole.
Yes, yeah. Also, just one thing, just building off that, you also mentioned to me in a previous conversation that you collect hives, don't you?
Yes, yeah. So we have a swarm collection map, which is something I've implemented as trustee of Bridgend District Beekeepers Association. It's also a UK national-wide thing where we essentially have a map of local beekeepers where if a swarm takes place, like I said, it's a completely natural process that takes place in the hive, where if they either run out of room or feel that they need to split into two, that's what they do. That's a simplified way of looking at it. They'll split into two, and that essentially increases the beekeeping population. So the bee population, because now rather than just having one huge hive, it's two, and there's more room for expansion in the original hive. So wherever we can, using this beekeeping map, people can call us in the local area if they have a swarm in their garden, for example, and we'll go out free of charge and collect that swarm then as well. So I think, you know, it allows us to not only go to help people to, you know, remove swarms from their garden, maybe cause an inconvenience, which, you know, is fair enough.
Especially if they have like young children or
exactly. But at the same time, it's fascinating for them to see that, and you know, it's really good to see that over the years since I've been doing this. You know, I've been doing it 11 years now. Over the past 11 years, it's been really beneficial to see that a lot of the people that I've gone to their house and collected swarms, they've actually got involved, and you know, they've had my contact number. So wherever I can, I will help them out and get them involved then as well. And you know, it's been really nice to then, you know, there's been occasions where I've taken that swarm in, put them in a hive, and then given them back to the person where the swarm had landed in their garden previously. Yeah. And then using that swarm that landed in their garden, they've been able to start beekeeping themselves. So it's really beneficial and quite nice to see as well, because you know, you're making a positive impact, not only to their life, because it's massive for mental health, for example. You know, beekeeping's been implemented in areas such as Park Prison up in Bridgend, you know, to help prisoners essentially reform and use it as a way to chillax a bit and, you know, really help their mental health. And I'm happy to say that speaking to members of G4S, it's been really beneficial to the prisoners. So not only that, but you know, it's making a positive impact in the ecosystem. So
and you can see that positive impact literally from the moment you know, give them back the swarm.
Exactly, from the get-go.
So you see the results of it, I guess.
100%, yeah. And then it's a plus one at the end of the year that beekeeper then gets a couple of jars, just a reward for the hard work as well.
No, and obviously that's beneficial. But yeah, so just you know, so expanding on, you know, sort of, we've talked a lot about sustainability and everything. So what do you see as the future for sustainable honey production in Wales, or even globally? You know, what do you see?
So I think, you know, traceability is really important. Like I said, working on that PGI accreditation in Wales will be massive, because we know then that the honey goes right back to an apiary. And if you ever say, oh, where's this jar of honey from? You could look through your records and see that. And I'm very, very proud to say that we already could do that. Having that accreditation for peace of mind for our customers is really important. And I think the Wales can lead the way with traceability, and doing things like the pollinator friendly seeds, the seed bombs, the wildflower seed bombs. You know, it allows us to then lead the way with being eco-friendly and planting wildflowers as well is something that not a lot of people and countries have adopted, sorry.
Yeah.
And especially local honey as well. We've got a really tight-knit community here in Wales, and I think that
Yeah.
especially since COVID, we've seen a massive increase where people want to support local produce and local small businesses as well. Without our small businesses, we'd all be pushed into going to the tech shop at Tesco all the time,
Yeah.
and people like
Yeah.
options. And, so I think that now we are really making a big dent in people shopping for local produce and local honey as well. Wales is leading the way, and the Welsh government and local councils are really helping, push local produce, push local sustainably produced honey. So
Yeah, of course.
I guess the future lies in nature-centered, resilient systems where, it's not mass-produced. And something that's massive for me as well, I'm really proud again to say that I've had a big increase in youth involvement in beekeeping. When I was 16 in 2019, I was really proud to be representing Wales on a global level in Slovakia for the International Meeting of Young Beekeepers. And I'm proud to say that the year after that, we also managed to raise funding from the Welsh government to send another free team of beekeepers from Wales, again to Slovenia, to represent Wales on a global scale for beekeeping, young beekeeping. So, and using things like YouTube and Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, we're able to get more young people going, actually, you know what, I may give that a try, because what we're finding, I mean, me and you would both know that young people, they go for a trend. Everything's a trend now. Things like fidget spinners, for example. As soon as they come out and become a trend, everyone had one. And I'm not saying that beekeeping's going to become the next fidget spinner, but I think
it's a bit more
exactly,
in depth,
but making it more trendy, and again, like I said, trying to make it not as niche. Is really important, and would encourage more young people. And I'm happy to say that my role within Brigade Beekeepers and now my role within Welsh Beekeepers as well, my role on social media, has allowed me to see an increase in youth involvement in sustainable beekeeping practices, because they want to invest in the future. And I think young people are becoming more aware of how important sustainability and pollinators are. And essentially want to help out, and this is their way of giving back. But what I always say, the quote that we always use here at the Welsh Honey Company is, "It's the taste of Wales in a jar, honey," because it is literally the taste of the wildflowers that are around us. So every jar of honey represents the care for bees, for people, the planet, and the environment around us whatsoever. So all together. So it's really important for me to produce a good quality honey. Educate the people around me of all ages. And make positive impact altogether on the ecosystem.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, that's perfect. I just want to touch on something you mentioned earlier about in regards to the honey, like honey production and everything, and not squeezing everything you can out of a hive to the detriment of the bees. I was just wondering, on like a business sort of angle in regards to that, if you had like an order come through and the bees didn't produce as much honey as you sort of forecasted, at any point do you sort of consider sort of squeezing a bit more out of the hives or anything like that, or do you stick to the sort of ethical practice?
Unfortunately for me, it's not something that I do. Like I said, sustainability is number one on the list. So if I can't fulfill an order, I'm quite happy to put my hands up and say, listen, personally, I can't fulfill that order. But that isn't anything that we'd ever do. Sustainability and the bees come first before anything else, to be honest with you.
Yeah, fantastic. Good to hear that, obviously, that your sort of ethics don't go out the window when it comes to the big order. It's more of a case of, right, okay, let's see if we can rectify this, and worst case scenario, we cancel the sort of thing.
Exactly. It was something that my grandfather taught me years and years ago, and it's something that I'll live, I'll carry with me for the rest of my life.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So, yeah, so this is the end of the sort of questions that I had planned. Is there anything else that you wanted to mention? Is there any sort of, things that you've sort of thought, during this interview that you thought, oh, right, hang on, I should have mentioned that or anything?
No, no, I think I covered most things, to be honest with you. I'm just really glad to be able to make, a positive impact on, our environment, and especially Bridgend as well, because, like I said, it's a suburban area. There's not
Yeah,
a great
yeah,
deal of farmland around us. You've got to travel a bit more out. So,
yeah, yeah. It's a
working
lot of
around
housing,
that,
isn't it?
working around that now is really good to see. And linking in with Bridgend Council as well is absolutely huge, and I think we're going to make a really, really big impact, not just across the agricultural industry, but across all industries.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah. Yeah, thank you so much for this. It's been great hearing off you. Yeah, and it's been really informative.
Brilliant. Yeah, thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, no